As I was just seeing the presentation about Mr. Ramakrishnayya, my thoughts went back to the year 1975 when I met him first. In fact, I had some personal anecdotes, I'll mention it later. In order to make it cogent, I thought I'll start with the speech first. I deemed an honor and privilege to deliver the second Sri Ramakrishnayya Memorial Lecture, especially after the first one having been delivered by distinguished former Governor of Andhra Pradesh and Reserve Bank of India, Mr. I had the most enjoyable and pleasant experience of my civil service career while working with the late Sri Machavaram Ramakrishnayya. When both of us worked in the Ministry of Shipping, he as the Secretary to the Government of India and I as the Deputy Secretary during 1975-78. What impressed me most in him was his quick and sharp grasp, razor-sharp memory, enviable efficiency, admirable equipoise in dealing with men and matters, and finally, a disarming smile with ready wit even under great and disturbing provocation. As Member Secretary of the Shipping Development Fund Committee, of which he was the chairman, I reported to him directly and almost had daily interaction with him. This committee, known as the Shipping Development Fund, SDFC, was a concessional funding agency for shipping industry, started in the early 1950s by the then Minister, Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, to promote national shipping tonnage. During the chairmanship of Sri Ramakrishnayya, a number of innovative schemes were introduced to augment the Indian tonnage, which was then a crying need of the industry. I vividly remember how he used to conduct the meetings with adroit dexterity, reconciling the conflicting viewpoints of various government agencies and shipping companies. Another impressive aspect of Sri Ramakrishnayya functioning was the ease with which he used to deal with subjects and the files presenting challenging financial issues, since shipping finance was a highly complicated and difficult subject matter. In his official work, he was easily accessible and easy. His disposal of files used to be very quick with crisp instructions. When I asked him once about the quick speed with which he was dealing with the files, he smilingly replied that he never wanted to sit late in the office unless it was absolutely necessary, that any remaining files at the end of the day would be bundled up and taken home for disposal during the next day early morning. His post-retirement activities promoting interfaith harmony and other charitable work, especially in the field of education, need to be recognized and understood by the society. He was indeed my role model. I often tried to follow his style when I occupied senior positions in the government. What a change that we witness today in the decision-making process of bureaucracy, where delays and vagueness seem to be very common. I must say I am extremely lucky to have had some very good bosses in my career. One of whom is very much here, Sir S. Anandaram, the former Director General of Shipping of Andhra Pradesh. I worked with him in the Hindustan shipyard, and I must say that I was extremely lucky to have had such bosses. The topic which I have taken for my speech today is civil service and good governance. Very often we have been hearing criticism about the wooden nature, indifferent attitude, and convoluted thinking and delays in decision making by the bureaucracy generally and more so in India. It's very common for the politicians, especially policy makers and the media, to blame it on the bureaucracy for most of the ills of governance. I'm not here to take the view that such criticism is unwarranted and that the failure of governance lies entirely outside the bureaucracy. However, I would like to emphasize that bureaucracy is only an instrument and its efficacy depends upon the environment in which it operates and the system within which it is required to function. Like fire, bureaucracy can be used beneficially or otherwise, depending upon the user. Good governance is indeed a critical input for a good democracy. The criticality is more significant and important in democracy, where socio-economic development is an additional requirement for the government performance. Unlike the Western countries where economic development effort preceded democratic experiments, Afro-Asian countries such as India are compelled to promote economic growth with social justice within a democratic framework. This is indeed a big challenge, especially where poverty and illiteracy are widely prevalent. India has been an independent country from 1947 and became a democracy in 1950, adopting a unique written constitution which is a beautiful blend of the Westminster style and the presidential system in America. The constitution also has certain special features such as the directive principles of state policy, fundamental rights and duties, which have a bearing on good governance. Be that as it may, the record of governance in India since independence cannot be said to be quite commendable or satisfactory. In spite of the fact, during the last 68 years since independence, many proactive steps have been taken by some brilliant and competent political, bureaucratic and social leaders for alleviation of poverty, removal of illiteracy and other welfare measures such as public health and sanitation. It cannot be denied that the socio-economic inequalities in the income and wealth distribution, as also unemployment, have only increased, although the standard of living for the poor have lately improved remarkably. The civil service in India has broadly been patterned on the British practice, where the recruitment to higher official posts is done on the basis of merit through open competitive examination and oral interview. The recruitment to lower positions, especially at the state level, has been subject to tremendous political influence. Further, the recruitment in the civil service has been influenced because of reservations provided for socially backward classes, which in some cases beyond 50% for the post, with questionable age relaxations in recruitment. Well, there can be no objection to incentivize the socially backward candidates. There has been no matching effort by the government to improve the quality of government recruitment and performance of such people by special training and other incentives. The poor performance of the civil service is not entirely ascribable to this phenomenon. The political culture of the parties in power, while selecting persons for various posts, especially at senior levels, has often been highly biased, with the result that integrity, accountability and transparency in governance have been sacrificed, much to the detriment of neutrality in civil service. As far as recruitment is concerned, there has always been good and effective procedure to recruit persons at young age and train the fresh minds for holding top positions. At present, I am told that the recruitment for Group A posts has age relaxations beyond 30 years, which is not conducive to good governance. At present, older persons entering services and to tend to have rigid outlook and insensitive approach to quicker delivery of public services. There may not be any objection for age relaxations beyond 30 for other levels of posts, but not to the top levels. The worst case of poor governance is that of police administration in various states and to some extent at the center, where postings of officials at the important places are often based more on political convenience rather than administrative competence. It is worthwhile to refer here to the directions given in the recent judgment of the Supreme Court for delinking the police administration from political influences on the basis of Police Commission's recommendations, which are yet to be implemented in many states. Similarly, the non-police civil service has gradually come under tremendous political control in recent times, euphemistically called as committed bureaucracy, that the civil servants find it difficult to successfully survive the threats and pressures of the ruling party. In a nutshell, the civil service in India has unfortunately become a plaything of politicians due to a variety of factors, including their pliability, superiority complex and greed. No wonder corruption, inefficiency, negligence, rigidity and insensitivity are too common in today's governance. Another deficiency is the failure to weed out corrupt and inefficient elements, often under political patronage. The Justice Shah Commission report, immediately after the emergency, had brought out the various aspects of this malady. It is therefore not surprising that there has of late been an increasing demand from public, media, as well as political parties, both in power and outside, for improving the quality of governance. There is therefore an urgent need to revisit our civil service recruitment, training, and motivational incentives so as to encourage honest, bold, and competent civil servants at all levels to bring more transparency and accountability. In this context, I propose following suggestions to improve the quality of governance in order to achieve our constitutional objective. I will not go into the detail because of the shortage of time, but before that I thought I must mention a few personal anecdotes with Mr. Ramakrishnayya. I still remember the first day when I met him in the Ministry of Shipping, the Transport Bhavan. When I met him, I asked him, how did you choose me for this post? He smiled and said, there were three candidates, one from the IAS, who was in Rajasthan or somewhere, he would have taken more time. There was a civil servant, there was a name from Central Secretariat Service, and the third one was you. And you were in the Finance Ministry, you could join the next day, and your reports were good, so I took you straight away. In those days, it is not so easy for non-IAS officers to get into many secretariat posts, and I did not belong to the IAS, I belonged to the Indian Revenue Service. And I was quite surprised. Many people thought that I had some kind of a connection with Mr. Ramakrishnayya, and that's why I got selected. But this was a simple solution to the problem that he had. The second anecdote which I would like to mention is the day on which he retired from the government. When I went to meet him on that day, there was only one file on his desk. I asked him, what is that file, sir? He said, it is about you. And then he said, I am convinced in the department, the personnel, that you should be made a director in the ministry and not allowed to continue as a deputy secretary. There was a technical objection to my becoming director because I had been an under secretary in the Ministry of Finance, and so the department of personnel was quite adamant that I will not be allowed to become director and I should get back to my department. But he tried his level best, and the establishment officer at that time was a person from his own Kada, Odisha, and still he could not succeed. But look at the magnanimity of the man. He could have just ignored my file and then gone away. But then he had so much of respect for probably honoring a person who was working with him. Another incident which I think is a very humorous incident. He was the chairman of the Shipping Development Fund Committee when we had to buy some fishing trawlers for the country from Mexico. And the person who was delaying this clearance of this proposal was one Mr. P.K. Ghosh, who was in the Ministry of Law. I was telling him, Mr. Ghosh seems to be keen to go to Mexico before clearing this file. He smiled and said, he called Mr. Ghosh on the phone and told him, Mr. Ghosh, I am Ramakrishnayya, I am a vegetarian, I don't eat fish. I have my member secretary, Mr. Krishnamurthy, he is a vegetarian, he doesn't take fish. And the joint secretary fisheries in the Ministry of Agriculture was one S.P. Balasubramanian from Andhra capital. He is also a vegetarian. You are the only fish eater, and you cannot be told this file. I want the file to be cleared by this evening. And if you want to go to Mexico, he said, I will allow you to go after you clear the file. And the file was cleared by the evening. I mean, this was that he could make it very simple, and at the same time drive home the point that the issues have to be decided very quickly. I have any number of incidents about him. He took me to meetings when I was probably new to many of these secretariat meetings. He took me to a meeting with the cabinet secretary, he took me to a meeting with the finance secretary, where he used to allow me to freely speak. Normally, when a senior is there, there is always a record not to speak freely. But then he would encourage me to speak freely. And then he used to say, I am not very good at this subject, and Krishnamurthy will be able to speak to you better. So this is the way he used to encourage young officers. And it is a lesson to be learned by senior officers in the government. We must encourage good and young officers to do good work. Well, on the suggestions for improving governance, I'll just briefly refer to a few of them. Good governance can survive and thrive only if we have good politics. Corruption is unfortunately a cancerous feature of Indian politics. The starting point of corruption in governance is political corruption. Political corruption thrives mainly because of donations to political parties, both by the check and cash, which often leads to a nexus between the donors and the rulers, thereby tainting policy decisions of the government. Although the law permits only profit-making companies to make donations to political parties within certain prescribed limits, it's a well-known fact that corporates and non-corporates donate funds to political parties, both in power and out of power. These funds are largely used for meeting ever-increasing election expenses. Perhaps a better alternative to check this would be to constitute a national election fund on the lines of the Prime Minister's Relief Fund, to which donations can be made by all taxpayers, corporates as well as individuals, with 100% tax exemption. As a result, the existing obnoxious nexus between the corporates, the non-corporate business, and the political parties can effectively snap at one stroke. Consequently, the threat of government policies being influenced by donors can be eliminated to a large extent, thereby freeing policy formulation from any political bias. The National Election Fund can be used by the government to conduct elections, provided political parties are barred from accepting donations. No candidate political party is allowed to spend their funds for election expenses, and the fund is administered and utilized by the Election Commission on the basis of guidelines to be outlined in consultation with all party conference. One important consequence of this is that there will be a level playing field among all the contesting candidates. No doubt such a change can be implemented with adequate notice to all stakeholders and necessary legislative change. Another important but urgent reform needed to change the quality of good governance in this country is to change the present electoral system of first past the post principle, which results in corrupt, criminal and sectarian leaders mentioned by Mr. Bannerla getting elected with narrow outlook based on caste, creed and language, to a more representative electoral system by which leaders with national outlook stand a chance of being elected. In fact, I went to Palestine to fight either elections. You will be surprised, even though it is not a full-fledged country, the election system they have is remarkably significant. In fact, 50% of the seats are elected on constituency basis, and the 50% seats are elected on national basis. So you have to elect, the whole country has to elect the leaders of the 50% of the assembly. The procurement system of government of India and the states is another area which needs to be thoroughly reorganized. The tendering process should be less opaque and more transparent as per international practices. Apart from introducing e-tendering and e-auctions for utilization of public resources, there should be a mechanism of internal control and audit of projects beyond a particular amount. The present system of independent external monitors successfully functioning for public sector undertakings should be extended to all ministries. Under this system, grievances against tendering process can be placed for advice before an independent body of external monitors who are from outside the government organization and approved by the Central Guilds Commission. Their advice need not be binding on the government, but reasons should be recorded for rejecting their advice by the concerned authority. Similarly, the low pilot bodies need to be constituted without any further delay by taking suitable legislative actions, including therein the functioning of the CBC, CBI, and the state vigilance agencies under the operational management. This will deal political interference in state investigations. Ironically, the functioning of the state has been increasing both at the central and the state level. The quality of public delivery of goods and services has been remarkably deteriorating. The main reason for this is due to excessive centralization of powers, both at the center and the states. India is too huge a country to be governed effectively from Delhi and the state capitals. The immediate change required, therefore, is to delegate and decentralize powers and resources substantially. Well, some of the functions of the central government can easily be delegated to the state government. Some of the existing powers of the state government should further be delegated to the local self-governments, such as corporations, municipalities and panchayats. I see no reason why the local self-government should not be entrusted with the responsibility of the maintenance of roads, schools, colleges, libraries, public parks and hospitals within their jurisdiction, within a clearly laid policy framework. The local self-government should be encouraged with more financial resources and powers, including the power to issue government-secured bonds and train manpower so as to make administration more accessible and responsive. As far as possible, such local self-government should be encouraged to promote schemes and projects in order to improve employment opportunities within their jurisdiction, of course, with effective internal control. The so-called smart city program can be operated in such a manner that takes up a cluster of villages adjacent to the existing cities to be a special purpose vehicle which will not only make governance people-centric but also reduce congestion and pollution in the existing cities. If powers and resources are decentralized as outlined above, the money power in elections to parliament and state legislatures will become less attractive. Decongestion of the cities by relocating offices. Another suggestion for improving the good governance is that to decongest many of these cities including the national capital and state capital. The setting up of new offices by central and state governments in the capital cities needs to be properly regulated. When I was in the expenditure department in the government of India, we used to object many of the offices being set up in Delhi. But then political compulsion will force the cabinet to locate the office in Delhi. There is no justification for locating institutions like Institute of Applied Manpower Research, Central Institute of Educational Technology, Central Soil Salinity Research Institution, National Institute of Communication Finance, Center for Cultural Resources, Institute for Studies in Industrial Development, Indian Institute of Ecology and Environment, Indian Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. I don't know why all of them should be located in Delhi. In my opinion, the need for all these institutions ought to be reassessed, and if need to be, it must be relocated in the proposed smart cities in various states to reduce the congestion in Delhi. There is one National Institute of Science Communication, there is another National Institute of Science Communication and Information Resources. I wonder why nobody thought of merging these institutions to avoid wastage of manpower and resources. Similarly, in every state capital, there are a number of offices such as State Institute of Management, various regulatory agencies, which could be easily shifted to the various district headquarters. There will, of course, be resistance from the staff and officers, but change has to be brought about in a phased manner with notice and option for the staff. I would go to the extent of suggesting that many of these institutions should be corporatized, if necessary, with public participation, so as to make them function on a more commercial basis. Police reform. I think the former DGP here, I'm sure he'll agree with me. Another area requiring urgent attention relates to effective enforcement of law and order. This being the concern mainly with the state government, the present state of affairs in many states is highly unsatisfactory. In most of the states, the state police is controlled by the state government, often for political purposes, with the result that the people have very little faith in the state police as an instrument of fair play and equality before law. In fact, it is the lack of faith in the state police which has led to the formation of the central paramilitary forces such as CISF, BSF, CRPF, etc. And the demand for CBI investigation at the drop of a hat in many sensitive criminal cases. Recommendation for reform of the police administration is languishing and are crying for implementation for decades. The effective and impartial police and other law enforcing agencies is a sine qua non for good governance. Taxation reforms. We may now turn to the need for reforms in the area of taxation, which too has been causing frequently avoidable irritants to the individuals as well as corporates. Although with the introduction of technology, the functioning of the tax departments, especially at the center, has improved significantly, there are areas where the present system of taxation of business enterprises as well as individuals needs to be completely revisited. The negative and uncertain attitude of tax administration because of fear of audit and vigilance and the convoluted and complicated drafting of the tax laws can be effectively and easily tackled by the introduction of simpler law and collective decision making. For example, the system of flat final tax on interest, commission and salary income could easily be considered to simplify the tax administration, thereby reducing harassment to the taxpayers. These items can be taxed at a flat rate on a gross basis with a two-tier tax schedule, maybe 10 and 10 beyond a particular amount. Only those having income other than these items should be required to file annual returns, while the tax deductors will have to file returns in respect of the flat rate taxes. Such a step will reduce the administrative cost and compliance cost, apart from reducing the manpower in tax administration and curbing the corruption aspect. The existing service tax, which has become an anathema to the service providers, needs to be rationalized. I see no reason why a separate commissionerate with an army of officials is required to implement this tax. Actually, this is an additional input tax on people rendering various services. This is very much a direct tax. This tax originally started with a small rate, has now reached 14%, which is manipulated additional tax burden for those having professional fees. If this is to be continued after CST is introduced, it can as well be collected along or integrated with the income tax with an additional column in the tax return along with necessary legislative changes. This will result in substantial savings in manpower and time. The system of assessment of income tax returns has substantially improved in recent times, but the income tax records of a taxpayer for various years are not kept together. As a result, at no point of time it is possible to access the complete tax history of an individual or a corporate especially in high-income categories. Well, it is true that information for various years may be kept electronically. A complete picture of taxpayer and associates need to be kept at least in respect of about top 10,000 taxpayers and all public limited companies, which will be useful and effective for investigation. I am aware that such a program has been developed by a junior tax official in the tax department, which needs to be examined and refined for implementation. The present system of advance rulings in both direct and indirect taxes is far from satisfactory. Firstly, the appointments are made to the various posts. They are not made on time, and secondly, they are not required to give rulings within a time frame. Moreover, the scope of advance rulings has also needs to be widened. Many tax litigations could be avoided if the institutional mechanism is properly reorganized. Similarly, the company law administration with which I was associated also requires a number of changes so as to improve the ease of doing business in India and reduce avoidable procedural irritants. For example, there are a number of companies and banks under liquidation where the winding up proceedings are pending for years and decades, if not, with the High Court who do not have any expertise to deal with these proceedings. Some companies are under liquidation for 3 to 4 decades, while the shareholders of the company are still to get dividends from sale of large assets owned by such companies. In some cases, the shareholders would have died by now, with the result that the legal heirs may not even know about the dues. In Singapore, for example, liquidation proceedings have to be completed within 1 year. I see no reason why it cannot be brought about. The Board for Industrial and Financial Construction needs to be abolished, as very often they do not allow smooth restructuring of companies in business. The recent change brought about by the introduction of National Company Law Tribunal does not tackle the problem of monitoring the companies under liquidation. In India, there is no corporate restructuring authority to nurse back companies in distress. For example, in the case of Satyam Limited, the government, through the Company Law Board, replaced the board in order to have saved large number of employees from losing jobs. The same thing could have been done in many cases. For example, a similar step could have been taken in the case of Kingfisher Airlines, which could have saved jobs as well as businesses. There are many countries where corporate restructuring is undertaken by a separate agency and the whole process is completed within 1 year. Judicial reforms. Another important area which needs urgent reform is judicial administration. A number of suggestions have been made by various bodies, including the Law Commission in this regard. Although many foreign investors appreciate the rule of law prevailing in this country, unlike many other developing countries, they have strong reservations about investing in India due to inordinate judicial delays. A commercial organization cannot carry on business with uncertainty in matters of litigation. It is therefore imperative that there is time limit for completing litigation proceedings, both in civil and criminal areas. The present system of granting indiscriminate adjournments without any limitation and too many trials of appeal is casting a slur on the judicial system. This needs to be remedied. In conclusion, I have highlighted some of the urgent needs for improving good governance in India, which will enable the civil servants to function fearlessly and responsibly. They are not exhaustive, but they are important if we have to take an impact on our economic growth. As I mentioned earlier, the role of civil service in promoting good governance depends upon how well it is organized and how freely it is allowed to function impartially without fear or favor. Unfortunately, in India, and probably in many other Anglo-Asian countries, there is a constant attempt to devalue courage and fair play as essential attributes of civil service. Further, there is no proper system of rewarding honest and bold officers who have acted in good faith to promote public welfare. I remember when I was conducting elections in Bihar, there were two officers, husband and wife. The lady was from Andhra Pradesh, and they were taking so strict steps about enforcing law and order that the government, the ruling party, was not happy. He passed an order, the collector passed an order preventing the notorious member of parliament from entering the constituency. I called him on the phone and told him, you are not supposed to do this. At least you should be allowed to exercise his vote. And this officer told me, sir, I am taking the full consequences. This is a rogue member of parliament. I would not like him to come from the elections. And he did it in spite of my instructions. And of course the elections went off very well. As soon as the election was over, the politicians were gunning because the person against whom we want to take action was belonging to the party which came into power. So they wanted him to be removed from that place. And fortunately, the chief secretary of that state defended him on the floor of the house and said he cannot be shifted, and he's one of the finest officers in that. In fact, I have sent a commendation letter on his performance. So it is necessary that while politicians will certainly be trying to interfere, the civil servant should display courage and faith in doing the job efficiently. This apart, government should focus increasingly in the area of timely decision making and promoting positive attitude among the civil servants in dealing with the public issues. These changes are possible only if the political masters and civil servants are enlightened and encouraged to perform better. They should conduct themselves in a manner that public offices are not meant for private use. Here is an opportunity for us to take a giant leap forward to improve the credibility of the public in good governance. If not, criticism voiced by Alan Keyes, in quote, bureaucracies are inherently anti-democratic. Bureaucrats derive their power from their position in the structure, not from the relations with the people they are supposed to serve. The people are not masters of the bureaucracy, but its clients. This criticism we should avoid. And the sooner the government realizes the need to make the civil servant neutral and perform freely, the better it is for the country. So let us hope that this warning issued by Mr. Alan Keyes will not turn out to be true, at least in India, by thereby damaging the credibility of democracy itself. So I take this opportunity first of all say thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some ideas. But in conclusion, I would certainly refer to some of the attributes of Mr. Ramakrishnayya, particularly in the matters of dealing with issues and promptly taking decisions. If I am successful today, or if I have been successful in my civil service, I can certainly refer to 2 or 3 persons, in fact I have mentioned in my book, including Mr. Amandra, who have allowed me to function freely, who have allowed me to exercise my free will. And it is possible for civil servants to stand up to the political bosses and assert. It is true that the ultimate masters are the politicians. But I've had occasions, I can tell you one instance where I had to fight with my minister, and it used to be flashed in the newspapers. And many occasions he used to tell me that I am under the compulsion of my party, I have to do this. I said, the party is not going to save you when you are in trouble. And I would like to tell you that I will not be a party to your party's decisions. I will certainly express my views. And one day, at 11 o'clock, the minister called me and said, I asked you to do something, you have not done it, but you have sent the file. Yes, I have sent the file, please read it. I said, yes, I have read the file, but for what you have written, I cannot overrule you. No, I cannot say anything against you. I said, did you read the last sentence in my file? And I said, if in spite of the above, the minister wants this to be done, he may kindly give suitable directions in writing, which will of course be implemented. Then he said, I cannot give anything in writing, and then in which case I cannot do it either. So it is not difficult. And I can tell you one thing in my personal experience. If you maintain consistently your freedom and your integrity, even politicians start respecting it. And I have had that by many of them. So I can confidently say, while good governance is certainly an important requirement for a good democracy, the civil servants can play a significant role in advising the politicians properly and in preventing them from doing the wrong things. But if in spite of that the politicians choose to do the wrong things, only God can help this democracy. Thank you.